Oli, and I am a summer board assistant. I finished both my undergraduate and master in psychology at University of Toronto. So today I want to first thank you, Professor Kamenetsky, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And so, Professor, can you just introduce yourself like in a few sentences?
Sure. My name is Stuart Kamenetsky. I'm a professor of psychology at the Department of Psychology and Brain Sciences at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. I'm a full professor in the teaching stream, so I spent many, many years running the undergraduate program, developing educational programs, primarily in experiential learning, so a practicum course where we place students in schools and social services working with kids with disabilities, as well as this particular course that we're going to talk about, which is the first ever summer abroad course in psychology at the summer abroad program at U of T.
Why is this course especially valuable for psychology students in today's social and educational climate?
Thank you. First of all, I think that let me start from more general comments about the summer abroad program. I think that any learning outside of the classroom, any experiential learning opportunity, which often is defined very broadly as learning outside of the classroom, is a very, very positive thing for all university students. Needless to say, there's very much that one can observe when they're outside of the classroom, observe and then reflect upon what they've observed, and then write papers and debate and have class discussions comparing what they saw, analyze what they saw with information that they learned about in class and they read about in class. So that all experiential learning programs in general, I think, are very valuable for all students. When we look at the summer abroad program, the great thing about the out-of-class experience is that you're actually going to another country. So that when you go to another country, even the UK, it may be similar to Canada in many senses, but in many, many ways it's not. And it really provides a unique experience, unique opportunity for students to learn something outside of the classroom, gain new insights, gain new experiences, be able to personalize their learning environment, and so on. In particular, for psychology students, I think it gives them a great opportunity to learn about the history of psychology, history of the field of disability, much of it which developed in Europe and in places like London and Oxford, where they'll get to visit the first institution for people with mental illness, where they learned about it in Psych 100. So it really is enabled students to really see firsthand some of the things that they learned about in class, and I think that that's very valuable.
How do museums and working tools help students grasp the complex social and historical dimensions of disability?
Well, these particular visits in my class as well as in other classes have been carefully chosen by instructors, of course, in this case by myself, in order to meet the learning outcomes that the class has. So again, these are opportunities to be able to see firsthand things that we cannot learn about in class. And when you go to a place like London and Oxford, which are really, in many senses, sort of like the center of the world in terms of many, many important discoveries within the field. And you get to talk to and you get to learn from people who are not in academia, but they're rather in social services, or they're a museum curator, or they're a historian, or a professional psychologist. You get to learn from people who have expertise in these areas outside of academia, so that they're better able to provide a broader type of perspective that sometimes is more difficult to get in class. Of course, that provides an opportunity for students to get that first hands-on type of experience, including directing their own experiences on their own. For example, when we go to various museums like the London Science Museum, it's very large. There are a couple of medical exhibitions that they get to focus on. But they have to write a paper about a couple of the things that they see over there. So of 1,000 exhibits, they may be able to superficially go over all of them, but then pick a couple that really, really interest them and focus on them. So that again, other than like what we do in class, it enables students to be a little bit more self-directed in terms of what they want to learn about, what they would like to focus on, and bring in their observations and write about them.
What kinds of discussions or debates do you encourage in the seminar, especially around controversial issues like inclusion versus segregation?
Thank you for that question. A couple of things. First of all, it's a relatively small class. We have fewer than 30 students every year, and with that size class, and the students are able to get to know one another. They live together and so on. So very quickly, students make friends, and I very much promote an atmosphere of inclusion and respect, and that of a learning community so that students feel comfortable to share their experiences and share their opinions with one another without fear that somebody is going to, come up with, unpleasant remarks based upon what they said. So that's always very important for me to establish in my class, as I know that it is for my colleagues throughout the program and other places within the university. So that's very important. And again, it's very possible within that type of classroom size. The other thing that I should say is that to me, a key part of an undergraduate education is to teach students how to think. And we teach students how to think by exposing them to many different ideas and showing them the pros and cons of each one of these ideas. And showing students why, in some cases, one approach might be a more suitable one, whereas in another case, another approach might be a more suitable one. We really go in my class, I really try to go very much against single-mindedness, really looking at one particular strategy or one particular ideology or one particular solution as the answer to all of the complexities of life that we live through. In my particular course, you mentioned inclusions versus segregation, which is very much related, of course, to educational decisions that we make for kids with disabilities who go to school, whether they'll go to an inclusive classroom with everyone else or they'll go to a segregated classroom with other people more like themselves. But more broadly within my class, we debate between the medical model of disability and the social model of disability. And in many senses, that's what the whole class is about. Where the medical model of disability looks at disability as a disease, as a sickness, as a broken body that needs to be cured. The problem with that approach is that sometimes the body cannot be cured. If you're born with Down syndrome or if you're born with autism spectrum disorder, there aren't cures for these things. If you acquire spinal cord injury, there isn't a cure for spinal cord injury or for brain injury. So there aren't necessarily cures for all disabilities. In other cases, there are. If you break an arm, you can have a cast and it could be fixed, it could be repaired. Um, so we debate and contrast that with the social model of disability, where the social model of disability looks at disability as an outcome of the environment that we live in. So that you may have a spinal cord injury, and use a wheelchair to get around, well, you'll only be able to come to class if class is on the main level or if there's an elevator that will take you to the class. Otherwise, you won't be able to come. So they really see disability much more as a function of the environment, of the social environment around us, which is very strong and very powerful, but it can't explain everything either. If you're born deaf and you want to play violin with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, it's probably never going to happen because you will never be able to learn violin sufficiently in order to be able to take part. So this is just an example of two very important theories, very important models, which we debate and we compare and we contrast for the whole month of the course. And students will learn not just, or students learn not just about disability, I hope, but also learn more about that when it comes to political issues, public policy issues, all kinds of complex issues around the world, that it's never going to be the case that one simple, explanation is going to be sufficient to understand the complex problems of the world.
What has been the most personally meaningful moment for you while teaching this course abroad, since you have taught this course for many times?
Thank you very much. And yes, you're right. I've been teaching this since 2015.
Yeah.
So I taught it maybe 6 or 7 times in Oxford. I taught it a couple of times in Italy. I think that, in many senses, first experiences are always very special and always very unique. I'll never forget how I was in awe in the first bus ride into Oxford, never having been there before, and looking at the beautiful historical city. I was absolutely in awe. I, after seeing all of the pictures, driving into Oxford for the first time, and of course, especially for an academic, for a professor, going to the site of perhaps what's often considered the best or one of the top 2 or 3 universities in the world, the second oldest in the world, that's been around for 1,000 years. I mean, it's very, very, very moving. But I could say that over time, of course, it's not, when I go there, it's not a new experience anymore. So that is somewhat diminished. I think that what certainly keeps me going, and which is the most meaningful thing for me, is really the students. It's seeing the students' excitement. It's seeing that light bulb turning on in the students, in the young students' mind. I've been very fortunate to have had excellent students come to the Oxford program. Very hardworking, intelligent, motivated students who want to go to grad school. I know that this is somewhat goes into the next question. Um, but really seeing them reveling and enjoying and benefiting from the learning opportunities. And it's wow, I thought that I knew so much, but wow, now I saw something that really changed my perspective on many, many things. Or I've learned many, many things, and now through this particular experience, everything has come together, and now I see the full picture. So that really, perhaps as a teacher, teachers are perhaps biased to look for these, aha moments, these eureka moments in their students. But when these happen, I would say that these are the most meaningful experiences for me as an instructor.
What kind of students is this course best suited for? What should they expect to gain by the end of the program?
So look, the summer abroad program is a full credit course,
Yeah.
4 weeks. So if you take a year-long course at U of T, we don't have many of them. Keep in mind, it's from September to April, and we'll have 24 lectures of 3 hours each. Okay. But if we take a course like Psych 100 at UTM, it's still a course like that. Okay, 24 lectures. They have 2 hour lectures and then they have labs. It's reading a whole big textbook and lots of tests and everything. It's a lot of work to do within 4 weeks. Okay, so number one, it's a very, very busy, very, very intensive course. I wouldn't say that the course material is extremely difficult. It's not easy either. It's very, very similar to any other third year psychology course in that sense, and I teach it very much like that. But it's a lot of work because of the amount of reading that takes place within such a short amount of time, and the workload, the attendance in lectures. It's really the student becomes completely immersed in that over that particular month. So students have to be prepared for it. They have to be very well organized. They have to really, really want to do it. They have to have good time management skills. They have to have the suitable and appropriate prerequisites for the course so that they have that background knowledge that they need for it. They need to be good writers. There's a lot of support that's provided. There's a lot of coaching that's provided, but it has to be a student with a very good attitude towards learning and a student who's willing to learn quickly. It's really most suitable for students who are very, very motivated, who are prepared to start to do the readings before they leave and so on. What can they gain from the Crow program? I think that the sky is the limit, and I think that it's very, very individual. At the least, they'll gain knowledge from what they've learned from the course material. Okay. Other students, for many students, it's their first time that they're really away from home. And being away from home with the U of T prof and other Canadian students from their home university that they make friends with, and staff and other faculty from U of T, and often traveling together, that provides them with a great sense of comfort in terms of that first real away experience being with people that come from Canada, from Toronto, people that they know and that they trust. I think that students, through this being a very intensive program, students make good friends with one another, and sometimes these friendships turn into lifelong friendships. I think that sometimes when young people go through an experience together, here we have a group of, will be 29 students this year, who are very interested in psychology, who are very interested in disability, who are very strong academically, who are very motivated. These are students that are all very much like one another in terms of interests. In good Canadian fashion, they're very, very diverse culturally and racially, and that's wonderful. And they bring with them their unique experiences, the unique backgrounds into one course in which everybody is really interested in the same type of topic, and they're learning that topic together with one another. So that fosters very, very meaningful relationships with one another. And I very much hope, I don't have full control over that, but I very much hope that this results in lasting friendships for the students that come.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you for all the thoughtful and helpful response. I believe that students can find a lot of information from this interview. So thank you for joining me today.
You're very, very welcome.
Thank you so much.